No, I don't.
Well, I'm trying to help you.
Good evening and welcome to the September 16th, 2019 Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting. The board has just come out of a paperwork review. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any other items of business the board would like to add to the agenda this evening? Okay, hearing none. Public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 p.m. The first item of business is police administration budget.
Evening, gentlemen.
Evening, Ben.
If you don't mind, I'm going to sit in for Chief O'Brien this evening.
Oh, also, just so everyone will know that Selectman Lynch and Town Administrator Brown will not be here this evening. They both had unforeseen personnel matters. I should say personal matters.
Yeah, that's
Could have been personnel too.
So I'm happy to follow whatever format that you gentlemen would like. I think typically we go line by line and generally highlight any major changes. I'm pretty pleased to report there's nothing too significant, something that you haven't seen before. But I can either run with it line by line and highlight those, or if you'd have another format you'd rather me follow, I'm happy to adjust.
Let's just go with the ones that have changes to them.
Okay.
And we're going to start with police, 4210.
Yep.
10.
So I'll start at the 110, the PD administration salary. Those are contractual, the contracts that the town share with the chief police and the captain. Moving to 111, you have your PD officers. You will see an increase here in this line item. Again, these salaries are contractual based on the negotiated agreement between the town and the police union. I think some of the things that you'll see that are different from previous years are longevity pays, some degree attainments. There's a bonus for the certified officer if he were to complete his 6-month probation. Also, there's a new shift differential. So under that 111 line item, those are some of the reasons why you would see that increase. For 120, PD wages for the administrative assistant. This increase reflects a $500 longevity stipend. Also, per the town's personnel policy, she received a raise after her review was completed by Chief O'Brien. So that's where you would see that small increase there. Under 125, PD wages for special officers, you will see an increase of about $10,141. Again, this is a result of the contract negotiation. 2 of the officers who are retired full-time officers, the town and the union felt it was important to recognize the years of experience that they have and to compensate them at a higher rate. So that big bump is for 2 of those officers for their salary increase that was agreed upon between the town and the union. Moving forward, I think you'll be really pleased with this one, 140, the PD wages and overtime. You're going to see a significant reduction. I want to share with you that the chief and I worked really hard as we become up to full staff, where we made a commitment to the town that if we had a 13th officer, we felt that we could save over $60,000 to maybe $80,000 at one point. And this is going to be the first phase of us being able to accomplish that. And what I want you to know that the chief and I did is we created overlapping schedules that would reduce overtime. So if an officer took an 8-hour shift off, typically we would fill the 8 hours. The way our shifts are overlapping, we may only have to fill 2 or 4 hours. And because of some other shift assignments, you may be able to go from 3 officers down to 2 officers. So we're maintaining that good 2-person coverage that we feel is mandatory to have out there on patrol. But the chief and I were able to reduce 706 hours of overtime. That would cost approximately $36,000 to cover. And I'd also, something that you wouldn't see on this side, it would be an $18,775 saving in retirement. So you'd see that from the town side. So again, it's working towards that goal that we can say this officer is almost going to be cost neutral. And this is the first time that you're going to see that significant decrease in overtime. So I'm pleased to report that to the board.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
a question. Ben, now, you said that it's a start. Now, why were you not able to, just as an explanation, why are you not able to affect all of those savings in next year's budget because of the fact you now have a full?
So thank you, and I'll clarify that. As we move forward, you're going to see another reduction, and I believe that in this year's budget, through eliminating that amount of overtime and through another cost reduction to the town, we'll have actually met our benchmark of saving $65,000. So that was where we felt we could say we can get here. The chief and I really think that do this for the first year. We do have an officer who's away for the first 2 months, away on a military assignment. And so I think trying to go to that next level, we have to account for that. So I'd ask that you notice that we're working towards savings more, but I think we will hit our 65,000 and probably even more this year. But we were confident with this number that we could present to you today.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. 141 PD wages, the captain overtime. The chief and I are removing over $10,000 from that item, being at full staff. When the officer comes back, again, we were really moving the captain away from covering road coverage. We did have to make a small adjustment this year to allow me to help cover some shifts. We don't see that moving forward, having that 13th officer. So we felt the $10,000 reduction was appropriate, which would leave $3,000 that would cover certain call-outs that the captain would handle. It could be an internal investigation. Mm-hmm. It could be any type of major crime or critical incident that he would be responding. But again, I think with the position of there being a detective who was able to help respond and had the training to handle calls that maybe the captain would have in the past, and monitoring the amount of call-outs that I have and what it would be, we felt comfortable with that number. So I would highlight that $10,000 reduction and not paying $2,800 to the retirement board. It's actually, almost a $13,000 savings. So we were glad to be able to make that reduction and save, with some retirement funds and on what we're paying out on overtime. For the court, that's going to stay about the same. You see a small increase, but that's because we had to account for the pay increases per the union contract. So the number of hours are typically the same. What we're spending out seems to trend the same. And again, we just had to account for the raises to the officers. I want to touch bases with you on 149, PD, overtime, and training. This is a line item that would typically be underspent. And what the chief wanted to do is we wanted to capture and better reflect to the town how much overtime are we actually spending. We would typically underspend the overtime line and overspend the seminars and conventions lines, which you'll see later in the budget, which I believe is line 811. So what we did is we looked at what is the number that we spend in overtime, and that would be approximately $24,941. So it shows over a $10,000 reduction. What we did is we took that $10,000 reduction and added it to the seminars and conventions line at 811, which I'll show you later. The number, the final number between the two lines is exactly the same. We're not increasing, we're not decreasing. We wanted, it always comes up in these reviews, well, how come you haven't spent this much money at this point, and why is this one so overspent? But they tend to balance each other out. So we wanted to accurately say, this is what is spent on the seminars and conventions and the training costs. This is what we spend on your training overtime. So it just makes it a little more clear.
It's more indicative of what you guys do.
Yes, sir. And I'll highlight that again at 811 when I get to that point. Any questions on any type of the training, or are you any concerns of the continuing ed that, would you like me to, no? Okay. I'll jump down to 191, the PD uniform allowance and cleaning. This reflects an increase, and that is because of the union contract. The laundering for union members went up $100 an officer, and that was for the union employees. The community detail rate, line 199, you're going to see an increase in this, a $7,000 increase. And there's two major reasons. One, the detail rate had gone up per the contract. So what we were filling before was with a lower rate. We're also getting a lot more requests for officers to attend certain community events. So we've seen that on the rise. And we would like to account for a small amount of community detail for the members of our honor guard. These officers train for free. They've had opportunities, as when they went to Boston for the Fenway Park. That was on their own time. Funerals tend to be on their own time. But certain events, they would get some community detail for their pay. And my understanding is the chief and the union members had an agreement on if it's 2 hours, it's paid for the 2 hours. They forewent the 4 hour minimum. So it's just to account for some of those community events.
But these would be just strictly in town.
Correct, sir.
Because
Like
we're
Memorial
not
Day
paying
parade.
to, we
If-
wouldn't be
if-
paying to go out of town.
No, if we're going, and typically we haven't done any funerals, but if the honor guard was to represent at a funeral for another officer from another agency, that's on your own time. If you go, the Celtics open up and want the colors posted, it's great. It's a great experience. That's what it is. We're not paying out for that. No.
Okay.
The health insurance, PD dental insurance, your long-term disability insurance, your life insurance. Again, those are all numbers that Troy prepares for us. And I think we were still waiting for the pending rate notification. But I know Karen and Troy will usually handle that. So that's something that would be outside of what the chief and I would handle. 325 is the PD prosecutor contracted services. Per his contract, you would see a wage increase. So that would account for the increase there. Flat line items are 342, your PD software support. These are numbers that come in by John. There's a small increase in $485 as licensing and different things costs went up. So those just reflect those changes in those contracts. Our pre-employment screening is down. We've reduced it by about $1,600. In the event that the chief were to retire, the $1,000 would allow us to run a test and pay for any, if things stayed internal, if the chief retired, if things stayed internally and we had an open 13th officer position, that $1,000 would cover the psychological evaluation, the medical evaluation. And if we needed to purchase any testing materials in the event that we were able to recruit a certified officer, there would be some cost savings there, but the $1,000 is a good, comfortable number to recruit for one officer. Okay. Printing, our dues stay the same. The PD general supplies, you'll see an $800 increase. That's in regards to the drug box that we have out front in the lobby. We can no longer dispose of those for free. So now it's a quarterly destruction, and that costs $200 every time. And important to get those drugs off the streets, out of homes, here where they can be secured and then destroyed. So just a small increase to provide that service to our residents. Jumping down to number 620, the PD office supplies. You'll see an increase there, about $1,000. We looked to purchase a cabinet to store the honor guard uniforms. I think some of the members had the opportunity to see how they're being stored in the current state, which isn't good for the equipment. So we'd like to increase that line item to be able to make a purchase where we can store these, and keep them clean, keep them in a more appropriate storage location.
For anyone who wasn't at the walkthrough the other night, the uniforms were actually hanging in the woman's shower because they didn't have room for them anywhere else. Did I get that right?
You're correct.
Okay, thanks.
So again, it does make that shower inoperable. So it would be nice to free up that space for our female employees to have a shower that's accessible, and then also something that's would be much more appropriate. So that's why we think that's important. These types of uniforms, when you're getting dressed, it requires a second officer as you're putting the belt on and making everything line up. So it's when people have talked about, well, maybe you could just get dressed at home and store them there. It's not really appropriate. It's nice to have it on site here. You get together, you do your inspection of each other, inspection of the uniform, and get changed and ready to go at the station. Moving forward, our 680 PD uniforms and accessories. Again, you'll see an increase. That is relative to the union contract. The full-time officers' clothing allowance to replace worn uniforms went up $250 an officer. The permanent part-time officers received an increase. So you will see that, and again, that's contractual. So PD equipment purchase, per the contract, we do have to replace one union member's vest this year. Last year, we purchased 2 police shields to put in our frontline cars, and we'd like to purchase 2 more. And eventually next year you would see the last purchase so that all 5 frontline cars have these police shields. And I want to share with
the plexiglass type of thing that
correct.
it
It's
segregated a prisoner and stuff.
no, this would be the Kevlar shield that you would hold.
I'm sorry. Yep.
So it's a tactical shield.
Okay.
But what I want to share with you is that a lot of people think that these are just an offensive tool. It's really not. It's actually a defensive tool. So let's say that we have an active shooter situation or something very bad where we have people injured and they could still be a threat to this person. We can take that shield, we can prepare coverage, okay, and then we can assess the situation, which would then allow for our fire department, our medics to come in, and then we could do a tactical evac with them. So our fire personnel, the officer, and the victim are protected. So we want to give our patrol officers the best equipment, the safest equipment to handle any critical incident that comes at them. So I think in the future, I envision, and I'm speaking without talking to the fire chief or the deputy, but I think could be some good department training and exercise that we could do. And I think some of their firefighters may have done some of that before, but a lot of local communities are doing that. So again, I'd ask you, yes, can it be good for an offensive tool as you're going into a situation? Correct. It's more of a defensive tool. And so that's why we're looking to continue to make the 2 more shields this year. The other thing too, in terms of responding, we felt that our medical kits that we carry in our cruisers are inadequate. You might have a couple of 4x4 bandages, some gauze, nothing that could really do, before the fire department were to get on scene. We want to provide our officers with better medical equipment, okay, with actual, tourniquets, blood clot, other tools that we're getting trained on in that, so we can provide some first aid to the victim or whoever we're dealing with. And then that's going to help what the fire department can then come in and do. So the chief and I wanted to go from these small little bags that really aren't going to do much unless you just had a small cut, where we could have some equipment that we could really, if you had a major injury to someone, that you could really give some good medical treatment until the fire department arrives on scene. The last increase there, and this is the biggest increase, what we'd like to do is over the next 3 years, we'd like to replace 4 of our portables each year. So this would be year one, we would replace 4 portables. What's happening is some of our older models, if something breaks on them, you can't buy parts for them anymore. They're outdated. And so what we want to do is we thought, hey, this is something, communication is so important. And we want to make sure we have this good equipment. So we thought if we could cycle out 4 and get 4 and then have a plan that the board and the budget committee and people are aware of, this is where we want to do to make sure our communications equipment is up to date. We'd like to implement that moving forward. So that was, they're approximately, I think a little over $3,000 a piece. It does come with your charger, your antenna, your clip.
Now, have you guys been interfacing at all with Homeland Security or with statewide interoperability coordinator?
So we have done some of that. A lot of, are you referring to how what the radio contains and how we can communicate and with who?
Right. And, so that you can, the whole interoperability program, I'm not familiar with how the whole thing is working, but, with FirstNet and all of that, so that everybody in the state eventually will be able to talk or communicate at some point. But I didn't know if you had any interface with that yet.
I personally have not. What I will do, Mr. Lemire, I will check with the chief and I will get back to you and let you know.
Yeah, no, it's certainly fine. It's just, it's coming down the road, because the AT&T, the FirstNet program is live now and they're working at it. And I didn't know if you were aware of that.
I would hope that these portables will be state of the art. So,
Sure.
But I'll double check to make sure they're compatible.
Yeah, for your own.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Line 760, PD cruiser purchase. You'll see a reduction here. We're on our year where we would replace 1 frontline cruiser. I know most of you know we've gone on a good pattern of we purchase 2, and then we purchase 1, then we go 2. So that program is working out well. I think we will make an assessment as some of our first Tahoes get a little older. They seem to be running better. It's the first year of having 1 Chevy Tahoe in the fleet for a full year with other than your routine maintenance, there were no issues. So we'll try to evaluate the lifespan of one of those cars. But I think as we move forward, we'll look to continue to follow the 2-1 until we can make an adjustment. And that's something that the chief and I will be, monitoring. So that would outfit us for 1 vehicle. And then at that point, all of our 5 frontline vehicles would be the Chevy Tahoes. On line 811, the PD seminars and conventions. This is where you'll see, what did we do here? This is the increase. Again, we just took monies from the PD overtime training and we added that to here to accurately reflect what it is we're spending on seminars and conventions. So if you add your $20,648 from this with your overtime line of $10,348, it's exactly what we have between the 2 lines, $45,589. And again, we just felt it was easier to look at and say, overtime is being spent here. This is what we're spending. This is what we're spending on the seminars and conventions. And that is why we did that. And I think it'll be easier for members of the budget committee, future boards, even myself to have a better understanding of how we're allocating those funds. That's it for police administration. Unless there's any questions, I could move to the police support.
So pretty much it went up by $58,690.
Yes, sir.
And the majority of that's probably going to be because of the contractual.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions?
I'm all set.
Good.
Right?
So police support next. 4210.5.
If everybody is good with that, I'm happy to, once you have it.
We're good.
Okay, so 110, you will see an increase here. It's the PD wages for dispatcher. Again, this is contractual, so you will see they do have a pay increase halfway through the year, and then they do get a certain amount for a shift differential. Again, all part of the union contract that was negotiated, so you will see an increase there. As we move down to 140 PD overtime, that overtime hours increase only because they do have a wage increase. So the change reflects that. In looking in our notes too, I'm thankful for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, because there are times that they will cover when we would normally need to fill with overtime, that they'll cover, and it's at no extra cost. So we continue to have a great working relationship with them, and that works out well. The uniform allowance, 191. Again, the cleaning contract went up $100 per union member. So you see the $200 increase there. 210, 211, PD health insurance and dental insurance. Troy provides those numbers. You'll see your increase under 291, the PD uniforms and accessories. The dispatcher's uniform allowance went up. So it's a $500 increase for the line. And the contract, I'm pleased to report, with Hillsborough County is remaining the same. And again, they continue to provide us with coverage from 11 p till 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, and on Saturday and Sunday, 24-hour coverage. And it was nice to see that remain the same. And I'm happy to answer any questions in regards to any of those line items.
So we go from 11 p.m. Friday night until 7 a.m. Monday morning with Hillsborough covering us?
We do.
Okay.
So most of your total increase is contractual stuff.
Yes, sir. In fact,
Contract and
in this line, I would say
Of the 9,000, 7,800
Yeah.
of it is contractual.
it's contractual.
So, okay. So total, you're around 67,000, and most of that is contractual. Okay.
Okay.
And the only other is the animal control.
Do you guys know what number that one is?
That is 4414.1.
Thank you.
And there are no increases to this budget. Everything remains the same, and I could highlight it for you or for the those folks at home.
I have a question. The way that social media is now, and with like the Granite State Pet Recovery, is very, very proactive. How many calls does our animal control officer go on an average week, month, year? I mean, what do you have the numbers for that, or?
I don't have the numbers for that.
Okay.
I'm happy to get those for you. It would be pretty easy for me to put together something. I could happily prepare a memorandum for the board that highlights that.
I apologize for not giving you.
No,
advance
that's fine. It's a
warning on
great
that. I just
question.
thought of that question, to be honest with you.
I know they do go on some because you see it in the Hudson Litchfield News under the police thing that you guys give us every week.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
I'm all set.
All right. Well, thank you, Ben.
All
We
right. Thank you,
appreciate
gentlemen.
it.
I appreciate your time.
Thanks for all your efforts and everything you guys do for us.
Yes, thank you.
Have a nice night.
You too. Be well.
What's your better yet?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Frank,
How you doing?
Gentlemen.
which one would you like to start on, Frank?
We'll get the big one out of the way, I guess.
What number is that?
Which one's that? 4220?
It would be the
That's
fire
10.
budget, 42,
Okay.
2010.
2010.
Fire.
Kind of fits better.
It used to smell good too. I don't know if the smell's still in the room because I'm used to it. I'm used, you know, no, it used to smell like wood.
VOCs are gone now.
And don't leave, these are yours. Don't leave before you go here.
Yeah, there's definitely something in here.
It's probably because Kevin's not here.
Well, that would be wood burning, wouldn't it?
Second
I'm gonna
here.
leave it
Sure,
alone
on the
at that
same
point.
budget as you guys, just so we're.
Did you see the fire captain that got killed in Farmington,
Yeah.
Good day.
the explosion?
Well, that, and they have 6 people in critical condition in
Yeah.
the hospital.
It was,
including the fire chief.
you know, Ken Jones, Frank, that was his buddies. That's where, I believe that's where he was from. The chief in Meredith.
So,
God, it leveled that place. Oh my God.
Just never know.
So I'll just summarize the changes, if that's okay. I mean,
Perfect.
Decrease in the 110 salary line. No bonus this year. Station's complete for the most part. 111 firefighter wages, firefighter EMT, that's the full-time staff. That increase is due to the merit adjustments that were done this past July. Same with the call fire, the 120 line. All our personnel are subject to the town's merit performance plan, so even our call firefighters are evaluated and receive merit increases. And the way I do it with we do it with the call firefighters is we take the average, because there's really no way to determine who's going to make how many calls or given. So we take the average of all the call personnel, and that's where the $19 comes from. So it represents from the call deputy right down to the newest call firefighter. And then we average it on that. So it is a moving target during the course of the year. Training wages, again, the increase there is solely based upon the average went up from, I think it was $18.75 last year to $19 an hour. So naturally, the training wages went up. Fire inspector, again, same thing, salary adjustment based on merit. Overtime, pretty much all the salary lines are all based on the adjustments that were done in July, but we go that route. Next change is dental and disability. All that is numbers that Karen and Troy handle. So fire department computer software contracts. One of the things we've actually just recently, in the last couple months, done is there's the availability to have our actual dispatch message, the audio of that captured and converted into a text message. So basically, the audio is captured, sent via a text message to, right now it's our leadership team, almost instantaneously. So we're getting it within a minute of the actual dispatch. What we've pretty much received right along is a text message with a very general or vague nature of a call. For example, if one of you gentlemen were to have an incident and faint, we would get that as a unconscious, unresponsive, or untimely, which it's really night and day. It's a fainting versus a potentially,
Fatal, yeah.
So, and that's all because of the way the system, the dispatching system through Hudson is set up. They have basically a list of call codes and they lump everything into that list. So it's really not representative of what it may be. For example, we recently had a mailbox fire. Closest category they had to a residential mailbox fire was a shed fire. So this really, it allows, anybody that's on it, and again, where the company's allowed our leadership team to kind of beta test it here over the last 3 weeks or so.
Yeah.
And speaking as the fire chief, who may not hear that dispatch, I can listen to that dispatch, and it can really make a big difference on the text message version that we got. So they set up the equipment right in our IT room. It basically pulls off our radio system, and then through a computer they provide, sends it out as an audio message. So you get an audio WAV file via text message. So that is something that even over the 3 short weeks that we've had it is definitely worthwhile. We didn't realize it until we brought it up at a training, but we have probably a half a dozen or 8 members that are subscribing on their own already at $18 or $20 a year. So, I mean, I guess that's great, but they really shouldn't have to pay out of their pocket to get the information to do their job. So
The other nice thing too is, no matter what we do with our radio infrastructure, we have dead spots, and we have guys that they'll come in and show me because a lot of the repeaters are repeatable, and they'll come in and they're like, "This is what I hear," and all they hear is static. So a lot of times they may not hear, a call that they're truly needed at because they don't know what it is. The other thing too is if you're just barely over the border in Londonderry, the Route 102 corridor, you could be almost in town, but you can have your pager on you and it won't even activate because there's some sort of dead spots here and there. So this is nice because it's just like if you were sitting in the dispatch room at the fire station, and it doesn't matter where you are. You could be up north somewhere, or
as long as you can get a text message, you can get the information. So, we have some staff that work out of town, and may get a text message, but being able to get the audio, they may be able to restart for a bigger incident heading back towards town. So
Sounds like a useful system.
it is pretty neat, and it's extremely reasonable. And the other thing I think it works is the program is set up so that I think the breaking point was 30 or 35. So if you have more than 30 or 35 members, it bumps you to the next tier, which is not quite double. We're just over that. They agreed to give us the first level tier. So, we're paying we're getting probably 8 or maybe 10 complimentary, I guess, if we go with this program. So they were good about that with trying to get us on board. So instructor services, just slight increases based upon our 2 contractors that we utilize. Both went up, I think, 2.5% and 3%. So utilities for the new station, we're kind of still trying to figure it out, quite candidly. We, as I think everyone knows, but for those that are watching, we paid for about 6 months, 5 months, heat and lights and everything in this building while we were still in the old building. And most of that heat was during the time where we had no doors, so we were relying on 4 mil poly to keep that heat in. So obviously our heat bill is significantly higher this year than it will be in the future because we're heating a building that basically had no doors. And we were heating a second building. Since June, we've moved the 257 property to general government buildings. So this budget reflects purely 10 Liberty Way. Electricity was the same way. We have been in there for 4 months now. So I'm hinging that 15,000 and it's a reduction. So that's why I'm kind of explaining it. Hinging it on, we're spending about between $900 and $1,000 a month on electricity right now. But this is the best time of the year because it's light till, was light till 9 o'clock. So I mean, it goes without saying that as we get further into the year and into the winter, the lights are going to be on more because they need to be. I even noticed today, haven't used the light in my office too much because the light coming through the window was enough, but now we're starting to, the sun's at a different position, so I had to turn it on. So we are gonna, so I did kind of adjust a little bit for the winter months and probably looking at 12 to 1250 a month. Again, that's an estimate. So this is, we'll be in a much better position a year from now to truly peg that number or nail it down a little closer. Same with the heat. Water, pretty much it's what's Pennachuck is. We're paying $350 a month, I believe it is. Or more, about $375 a month between the fire. So we have 3 meters on that building. We have our fire protection meter for the sprinkler system, which is pretty much a fixed cost every month, right around $160. And we don't really flow any water other than when they come to test it. We have our domestic water, which would be the same as here, which runs right around $225 a month, or at least has for the last 4 months. And then we have a meter for the water, for the connection to fill the fire apparatus. And I know those were at the tour the other night, I explained that. So if we fill a fire truck off a fire hydrant, we don't have to pay for that water. We were able to work with Pennachuck during the construction to get the same setup within the building. They did meter it, but it's purely for their record keeping so that they can tell if there's a water break or not or something. We don't pay for that meter. We don't pay for the water that we use to fill the truck. So it's essentially the same as filling off a hydrant, but during the winter time, it saves us from having to be out and creating in ice conditions or just having to be out in the cold refilling a truck. And that's all that's off that meter. So there is 3 meters, but we only pay for 2 of them. So, and again, that comes to about $380, 160 and 225. So $385
Half of it's
a
the
month.
standby for the sprinkler cost.
Yeah, and 160 of it is basically the sprinkler system. So, station repairs and maintenance, kind of a jump there. And that's essentially because we now have a much bigger more elaborate fire alarm system. We have a sprinkler system in the new building. We have many more overhead doors. We have the hood system and the Ansel suppression system in the kitchen. And we have much more HVAC. So you can see those costs are broken out there. Those are all estimates based on the contractors that did the work on the building. Doesn't mean we have to use them after the warranty period's over. But where they knew the systems, it was easier to have them quote servicing than bring whatever vendor we may want to use in to review the system and so forth. So, and I firmly believe till we're out of warranty, we shouldn't have anybody else working in this building other than them to jeopardize the warranties. So that's the biggest jump there. The $8,000 is all those maintenance and annual inspections of those systems and equipment. The 630 line is a decrease. We replaced our hydraulic rescue tools last year. We're replacing our airbags this year. So those are really 2 of our bigger non-apparatus type tools and equipment. So that 10,000 was eliminated from the budget for next year. And then there were just a couple of, actually the change there is the 3,000 that wasn't reduced, is we have historically worked with Londonderry to do all our ladder testing. This year, Londonderry went a different route and hired a company to do their ladders and their hose and everything else. So we didn't, I think we were kind of so wrapped up with the building, we missed that email. We've always tested our own hose. We've brought our staff in to do it, forego either a training or create an extra day. And quite candidly, it's a scheduling nightmare, and it's always been the same handful of people testing all 12,000 feet of hose
14,000 feet of hose.
that we have. So we actually looked at, after talking with Londonderry, looked at the company that they're using. Ironically, Hudson's using them, and
Dover's using them. A lot of towns are going to them.
and they gave us a very, very reasonable price to do all our testing. So we'll jump back on board with our counterparts and have our hose and our ladders all tested by the company. Saves our people having to give up more time. We had a cost of labor anyway. I don't think it was quite 3,000, but there was a cost to do it. So So that is something new that we're going to do. We have to do the testing annually. It's just a matter of whether we do it in-house. We use our apparatus. Our pump specialist doesn't like it when we test our hose because it's not the best thing for the apparatus. This company comes in, they take the truck in the parking lot, they strip the truck, they test all the hose, they repack the hose. And I think Doug spoke with the Londonderry Battalion Chief, and they were very happy with them.
Yeah, they said they
Is that
Pack the
Perkins,
hose.
WD?
No, this is a company.
out of Connecticut.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they I guess they're 6 guys come in and they, whatever style hose, the way you want it packed, because there's different lays that you can do. They'll do it and it's done to perfection, and
Wow.
they do it all, and they use their pump, so it's no wear and tear on our apparatus, which
Nice.
is good.
Yeah, Perkins does the apparatus pump testing, so that's a different.
Yeah, I didn't know with
This
his
is the
machine if
hose
he
and the
did
lattice.
hose also. I didn't know that. Yeah.
No. And we've kind of been looking at it over the last couple of years because it has become harder and harder to get enough people to do it.
Oh.
I think last year it took us 3 nights and a Saturday to get it all done. So it's really asking our people to do a little, go over and above to get it done. And, when we saw this number and the price they gave us, it was really a no-brainer, because they're going to come in, they're going to do it. We don't have to, go through all the hassle of pulling teeth to get it done and so forth. So that is the slight change there. So we dropped 10, but we kept 3 in there. Uniforms and accessories. Probably as long as I'm here, I'm going to advocate for getting our personnel in Class A dress uniforms for appearance and so forth. So that 1,500 is back in. I kind of spaced it the other night. We had an association meeting. I've been meaning to ask the association to try and match, if we will. But even if it's 2 uniforms a year, I really am very much an advocate that we need to move forward with that. So protective clothing basically reflects the increase in cost that our vendor has indicated. Pricing is going to go up. It typically goes up in February. We have the last couple of years placed an order in January to avoid that increase. This year, obviously, with everything going on, we didn't. We just placed that order last month. Equipment purchase. All right, why is it down $4,000 and there's no changes in the?
Thermal
Thermal
imaging,
imaging camera. Mhm.
Oh, yes, thank you.
second line.
So, thank you.
Oh, wait, we'll guide you.
Maybe I ought to put these back on. What we actually did this year was we replaced a couple of our bigger cameras, our primary cameras on the first 2 trucks. And then we had switched over to mask mounted cameras. They weren't all they were cracked up to be. And unfortunately, we only got a couple of them to try. What has now come out, and we've gone to them because they've been out a little better than a year, and the feedback has been nothing but positive. They're actually not much bigger than a cell phone, and they're clipped to it. We've started assigning them to each pack, so each breathing apparatus has one. So they're not issued, but they're on at least the first 2. We bought 6 of them, put them on the first 2 piece of apparatus. So every firefighter has a little camera, and it's no bigger than this. It's a little bit thicker. I should have thought and brought one with us. And they run about $750 a piece compared to, when you bought the first
Oh
one
my
years
God.
ago, it was almost,
12,000.
oh no, they were
Oh, no.
22,000.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
incredible.
we're shifting to those because the in-mask cameras they were great concept, just too many buttons, too many battery life issues. And we still have the ones. We're going to use them through their lifespan, but this is a much better way to go. It's not right there, kind of an annoyance for some people. So that is, I didn't jump it back up because we can get, 3 of these for the price we were paying for 2 of the mask cameras. So, and so far we haven't had a fire to actually run them through a test, but we have used them for some training stuff, and feedback's been positive.
What's nice
so.
is that the mask mounted cameras were strictly black and white. This one here has 4 different color schemes that you can go through. So if you're looking for smoke, you can do a layer for that. If you're looking for a person, you can change the color spectrum so that it stands out with body heat. So in
Amazing.
It's incredible.
the picture is unreal. The
The first ones were this big.
Yeah. Well, even that, I mean,
You
we
needed to
were
roll them
paying
into a file.
right around 1,300 for each mask camera.
Wow.
And they were able to retrofit to our new packs a year after we bought the packs. These, like I said, are running like right around, I think I bought them at a show special at $750. So they're even less, and they have temperature. They'll give you the temperature of the
That's
room
nuts.
wherever you aim it.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, so it's, was it San Francisco or
LA.
LA issued one to every firefighter in LA. That's how, then they had gone through that testing before they spent that kind of money. They put these things through their paces. So I think they'll be much better than what we had already tried. So equipment lease, more based on usage. We're using the copier a little more than I think we anticipated. So that increases usage, not so much the actual lease cost. Mileage and tolls, we've carried that. I think when I got here, it was way higher through the use of staff vehicles and so forth. We really have only used it once or twice, so I was comfortable. I think we need to keep some there because there is always the anomaly that comes up that we can't fit it in a staff vehicle or whatever. So I kept 100 there, but cut it back 200 because I think it's been 2 or 3 years since we've used even close to 350. So seminars and conventions, those are all prices are reflected mostly on the fire and EMS certification programs costs. So we haven't, I think we actually just had 2 finish EMT and advanced EMT, and we have 1 on a fire 2 now. So we haven't quite used them all this year, and we haven't done any hiring this year. So if you're looking at our current year with everything going on, we've kind of pushed off the hiring. We are going to be doing a hiring process before the end of the year to fill a couple of vacancies. But quite candidly, with the station and everything, it's kind of been that's been the focus for the year. So, and that pretty much brings us to the $7,717 increase for the year. So
Pretty good.
I was
That's
thought we would be
amazing.
right around 1%, but
I was gonna say that.
yeah, with the new building and everything else, and
Nice job.
that was much lower than I would have guessed if you'd asked me a month or
Good
two
job.
ago.
No,
You
you had
and
some
me
offsets that helped you out a lot.
Yeah, oh yeah,
It's-
most definitely.
That's good.
You know, but I also didn't keep them in there to,
Mhm.
you know, I'd rather be right up front and,
Yeah.
you know, tell you what we
No,
need.
and that's good because a lot of
Yep.
people would have just spent the money, you know, and not shown anything. So that's good work on you guys' part.
I try to be good stewards of the town's funds, so. Let's see, I know we're gonna jump over hydrants tonight.
Yep,
'cause
we're gonna
Troy's
do
not
those when
here.
Troy comes
Jump
back.
Over ambulance. Emergency management, so next one I've got as we go across the bottom
Yep.
here. Really, the only change there is, our hazmat district dues. The hazmat district has typically been very fortunate with grant funding to base most of its equipment purchases off grant funding. They did have some stuff that wasn't covered by grants this year, so there was an assessment on all 18 or 19 of the communities that we're involved with of $500, and then the balance is based on a per capita. So that was the slight increase on that. So that's the $705 on that. And actually that's estimated for, because those dues are July to June. So we just paid, I don't have that. We just paid a little under that. So this is estimated, this is next July's
Next year's,
bill. So it is estimated because they don't set the actual dues until the June meeting. And for your benefit as well as everybody at home, the board, there's 2 boards. There's the board of directors, which Troy is the town's representative based on the board's selection. And then there's an operating committee, which is basically board of directors is the town rep. The operating committee is the department rep. So either Doug or I represent the department. So the board of directors set so it's the town reps that set the budget and the annual dues. So it's not the fire or the operations committee, which is the fire chiefs essentially that set those dues. So that's the 705 increase there.
code enforcement, no?
Yes. But the new furniture
Oh,
that
no,
was
I'm
part of
sorry.
the grant, it looked great last night.
Yes.
First time we used
Yeah,
it for the
yeah.
community
Yeah.
center, and it came out really nice.
And we've still got
Good
the
job.
the rest of the equipment coming in. John's got on order the monitors. There'll be 2 monitors like
Makes it look
that.
so much different than they.
It really does. Looks a whole lot different with all the tables set up and everything, and it was
Yeah.
comfortable. And we were in a nice meeting out of there last
I
evening. So
apologize. I jumped over code. Good catch, Kurt. So a few changes there, as you all know. We onboarded our new inspector last week. He came back this week, so that's always a
good, yeah.
positive thing. He's doing really well. All kidding aside, he's doing really well. He's taken to it. I will be. I think Troy and I talked about bringing him in next week to meet the board, just so you can put a face with the name. So adjustments there. Obviously, being a new employee, came in at a lower rate than our previous inspector was earning, so a reduction there. I did correspondingly, because he does have some training and certifications that the town had established that he's going to need to do. I did increase the part-time inspector hours to 80 up from 40. Because both vacation time and time out to get the certifications or attend the trainings is going to increase the time out. So one of the things that we've never had, because it was historically a salaried position and was converted at the urging of our legal counsel, because the position no longer met the exempt criteria, we did put overtime into it this year. So that is an estimate, 40 hours, and that's really for call-outs, after-hours call-outs, which, at least during my time here, we've had a handful or better. It's a vehicle striking the convenience store building or a fire after hours. I remember we had one that involved the main carrying beam of the home. We had actually cut it out of the fireplace. So we brought Kevin out at the time for structural consult before we started cutting the carrying beam for the house type thing. So don't anticipate it to be a lot. In the rare occasion that there's a very unique situation where an inspection has to be done at night or on a weekend, it would cover something like that. So again, it's really an estimate because we've no historical to base it on. So health insurance and all that, Troy is going to work on. Not really sure yet which plan I'm not sure which plan he selected. So and then slight increase in books and periodicals. It hasn't been increased in the last several years. We did just go through both on the building and fire life safety side, major changes to the codes in New Hampshire. So quite honestly, in the month of August, I think we spent between building and fire somewhere close to $3,000 in updated codes and code books on both sides of the spectrum. So to give you an idea, a routine code handbook runs about $95 to $130. So it doesn't take much to go through it quick. So, I mean, we should be good right now, but everything changes on a cycle. So at this point next year.
So what is the NFPA, every 3 years?
NFPA codes generally change every 3 to 4 years. IBC, I believe, is every 3 years, of the International Building, or ICC, International Code Council. They change generally every 3 years. New Hampshire just basically went from the 2009 codes to the 2015 codes. So we actually jumped the code cycle in New Hampshire, and that took effect actually the 15th on Sunday. So we are now, any permits pulled now are under the new building
And
and
it
fire
took
codes.
us 3 years to get that through the legislature.
I believe it.
So,
So
but there's always, we bought the typical, the residential, the plumbing, the electrical. There may be one we need to pick up because, we've got a new storage facility coming in that is gonna fall under a code we don't have. So, but just realizing what these books cost, it just made sense to increase it a little bit. So, uniforms is not a new line this year. We had put it in last year, although we didn't spend any this year. But we did actually just go out today, took him to the uniform vendor to get him uniforms. So that is in there, and that was new last year. Seminars and conventions did increase that some because, again, He is going to need to get both ICC and NFPA certifications that he doesn't currently have. So that's that 2120. As well as we went from having one, yeah, that's the 2120. 1,500 there, and that's the increase. Sorry, I was thinking of something else I'll get to in a minute. So that actually, with those changes, was a decrease in the code enforcement budget of $5,671. So, and I think the last one we have is health. So I'll let Doug jump in here, but he has been out on some unforeseen leave, so I kind of covered this for him. Basically, the increases were, we had for the longest time only a health officer. We now have a health officer, which is Doug, and we have 2 deputies, health officers, our full-time firefighter paramedic to kind of cover the pandemic side of the health spectrum. And then Steve Doobie, our part-time inspector, who's already a health officer with the town of Hudson, was made a deputy health officer here. So we have added one more. We intend to add Peter, the new inspector, as a deputy health officer as well. And so that was an increase in the dues for the Health Officers Association, which I'll let Doug speak to. They've already been to one training, and it's well worth $30 a year, I think it is, we spend, or $40 a year. And then the other increase was to add Peter to be able to go to the annual conference for, I think it's $70. So, because again, based on their experience this year, it's well worth the money spent. So we had an increase of $125 in the health line.
Any questions?
I can't complain
No.
about those
been
increases.
great, yeah.
Increases. I mean, wow.
Fantastic.
Tonight's been a pretty good night.
Yeah.
Budget.
She's pretty good.
Nice work, guys.
So I think
Appreciate all your
probably
efforts.
close to breaking even
Yeah.
between the 4 different lines. So.
Yeah.
It's great.
Not that was my goal by any stretch, but again, we are very happy to be in a new building, and we are maintaining the cleaning of it. So far, it's been working well. The firefighters have done a phenomenal job keeping it cleaned and maintained, and each company is assigned a week. It rotates, so every 4th week they're on house cleaning duties, and then the daytime crew kind of picks up, the other things. So, and that community room is getting used 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, that's good.
Not just by us, obviously not just by us. I mean, I think you guys were in there last night. I believe soccer league is in there right now. We have it Wednesday night, and somebody has it Thursday night. So,
We'll use it monthly, so I think
yeah.
it's great.
Well,
It's a great addition.
most of
Yeah,
our,
there's about 3 groups that are using it
Yeah.
monthly.
Monthly now.
so it is getting way more use than I really thought it would. So,
That's a fantastic service to have.
so,
Conveniently located.
It is.
yeah. Other than that, if you folks have any questions?
None for me.
You will
you
be
very
seeing
much.
the new utility show up here probably later this week. It's ready. We just need to go pick it up, and then we got to get it lettered and then radios and lights and everything installed. But you should see the pickup show up here in the next week or so.
Then we have the October 4th event?
We have the parade is October 4th.
4th or 5th?
4th, you're right. And
Friday the
5th is
4th.
open house.
Yep.
The 5th
Then
is open house, which will be here. We are working through the logistics, but we will be limiting parking on Liberty, and there'll be no parking over there because we actually have it all scheduled for displays and demos and so forth. So we will be running shuttles. Not exactly sure yet. We're looking at either Sawmill, or if Sawmill's not available, the high school. So, and I think we were
Yeah, I
looking
was
for
talking to
feedback
Paul
from
about
Rec
that, Yeah,
on whether or not Sawmill's got.
it should be available. I'm
something,
just
so.
waiting for a final
That would be the
answer.
closest and the
Okay.
easiest.
I mean, I could walk
but,
from there. I mean, if I'm willing to walk, anybody should be able to.
So
But it's a great community event. Every year,
It
the
is,
kids look forward to
wow.
it. I mean, I think it's
Uh,
fantastic.
we've had the food donated this year, so we'll have the hot dogs and hamburgers, but that's all been donated by someone. So,
Oh,
And
nice.
we won't have cars going by at 40 miles an hour with kids right there, like the old farmhouse.
well, we're actually keeping everything to the back of
Back
the
of the
building,
station.
so the apparatus will be right out in front. The apparatus that's going to be designated to handle calls, which we try to keep people out of, so we don't take somebody's child on a call inadvertently. Fire truck rides will be same, but they'll be done. Everything's going to be shifted to the back of the building. So trucks will be just out front on the concrete so people can look at them because there'll be stuff inside as well. But the trucks that'll be the rescue and engine one that will be down closer to the bike path so that they're not getting, like I said, everybody going through them or whatever, and they're ready to go, which we've always done. We've always put a truck over at either the library or the church. That was kind of our primary response truck. So, but yeah, we've got more space. I know, full-time firefighter paramedic Paul Kelly has taken the lead on it again this year. And he's with a committee, got a committee, a good group of people. They've already got the layout. And so it should be bigger and better than years past. So.
Great.
And the station will be open for those who haven't had a chance to see it. So, but other than that, I think that's somebody's going to miss it. He's going to be on vacation.
You really?
There's no vacations during that.
Yeah, that one slipped by the cracks. Well, he had already made his vacation when we set the date for open house.
Well, that's the thing is the date
Fairness to
change. Yeah, the date changes every year. So
Yeah.
my crystal ball didn't work good this year.
What he
he's here for the
probably
parade.
did was he probably scheduled his vacation for his week to clean the station.
No, that's every week. That's every week. Like I said, the call companies do, and they're running about 2 to 2.5 hours. They pick the night they do it, as long as it gets done during that week. And then, we kind of handle the trash and all the other stuff during the day. And obviously we have something, you may be aware we had that accident last week. So, it got a little dirty after that, but that got taken care of that day. So it wasn't left for the, whatever night because I think it was actually the day after they'd cleaned on Sunday night. So we couldn't leave it dirty for the whole week on that group. So, but it's been very positive. So, and I know the budget committee, I know you guys weren't there, but the budget committee get out to the bay and it was like, oh, wow. We're not hitting the doors on each other or the walls been good.
You can do the hoses while you're on top of the trucks.
Yeah,
is
we
nice.
can actually service the trucks
Wow,
inside.
it's good.
We can put the cabs up to service the trucks in-house and everything, and which this is really the first time that Corey, the mechanic, has been able to, because he always goes through the truck before we send them for inspection because we can't inspect them ourselves. So he goes through them, and then we send them over to a company in Merrimack that basically they're just double checking them and putting stickers on them so they're not replacing the light bulb and charging us, triple the price we pay at, O'Reilly's for the light bulb or whatever. He's been able to do them in-house. So, and he's been able, if you haven't seen the forestry, the new to us, but not new replacement forestry. I want to make sure we understand we didn't add truck to the fleet. We had a military surplus truck that was a 70.
The one we got is a 97.
No, the one we got rid of is a 76. It was a standard non-power steering. Only a few of us could drive it. That actually the government still owned. It went back to the government 2 months ago now. I guess he took it back.
Yeah.
Doug got to drive it on its last ride to Bear Brook, where the warehouse
I
is.
got the first ride and the last ride.
That was Doug's baby, but he's got a new baby. We were able to get through the government, through a different federal government excise program rather. This truck after a year, so in a year, well, next June or
A year
May.
from last week.
Okay, that's right, because when it's in service, it becomes the town's, and the town owns it in perpetuity. So the truck was valued at $68,000 or $70,000.
No, $170,000.
$170,000. Thank you. Was the value of the truck? We got it for $0. We didn't even have to drive it back. We were fortunate to have it flatbedded back for us at no cost. So we've put about, as Doug explained when he came in to present it, about $10,000. Might be a little bit more than that, but not a whole lot. All in-house labor, other than the painting and the line Xing of the bed. That was $6,000 altogether. Everything else was taken off the old truck, cleaned up, painted, buffed and puffed, put on this new truck. Most of what we had to buy was different hose configurations, fittings to make it adapt to this truck. But that truck is in service, went in service last week. And matter of fact, I think they're out right now
They are,
doing some
yeah.
driver training with it because
Oh,
our
great.
program requires daytime and nighttime driver training. That truck in particular requires them to do off-road training with it. So that truck is in service, and the federal program is it's not when you receive it, it's when you place it in service. So I forgot that, as Doug mentioned, it went in service last week. So a year from this last week, it will be the towns and the towns in perpetuity. So.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
And it went over to a Hillsborough County Forest Fire Wardens meeting last month, and it got a lot of wows and oohs and ahs, and how do we call for this? And so it will be getting some good use. Town of Hooksett got one about a little over a year and a half ago. They were kind enough to send their two primary people that were handled their acquisition and training down 2 weeks ago, trained all our staff, our officers who are now training their personnel, as well as we had some folks from Deering come over because Deering got a smaller version, a single axle version of it. So Hooksett came down, did a free training, and we opened it up to other communities that had them. So now it should be, you should see it out. I'm sure you'll be driving it in the parade. I don't know that anybody else will get near it. So, but it is for
Nice
Mm.
truck.
what, $11,000. It was a pretty
Yeah, we
good
used to work
investment
on
as
those
well.
in service.
And Hooksett said that they spent over $60,000 outfitting their truck.
Wow.
They bought a custom skid unit for the back designed for their truck. So where we were able to take what we had and, like I said, came off the old truck, sat on the floor of the old bay, the tank got repainted, the pump got overhauled, and then it all got mounted back on. And between Corey, Doug, and other staff, all the labor's been done for the
Looks
pretty much
great.
in-house. So, yeah. So I think that's a little bit more than the budget, but
quite
kind of
all
gives you an
right.
idea where those budget numbers go. So, and how we can come in with the numbers we come in with. So.
Good job.
All right, thank you. Good job. Appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your efforts.
No,
There's
there's
the town. Okay, thank you, guys. Much appreciated.
Very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Frank. Take
Oh, yeah.
care. See you, Doug.
Got one.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
So,
Put one of those right in the lobby
yeah,
if you have
yeah,
one, an extra one. It's nice to see.
yep. Yeah,
I've got
somebody's got to put the first hole in the wall.
I've got the framed one that I will give you because it doesn't do me any good at
There you go. There's the one for the lobby.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you for the lobby.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right,
All right. Have a great
Thanks,
evening.
guys. Be well.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Anybody else tonight?
Nope. Seeing we have no other business, our next meeting will be on September 23rd.
You mentioned in the beginning that public input would be.
Oh, yes.
6:45.
Okay.
Being that it is 7:14, we'd like to open public input. Seeing we have no one from the public here, we'll close public input.
Russ, you got anything?
As I was saying, our next meeting is on September 23rd, 2019. With no other business, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved. We all
Second.
want it.
Moved by Mr. Leary, second by Mr. Lemire. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstain? Motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you for watching and have a pleasant evening.